My mother was unfortunately born at the wrong time. She was not as well educated as my uncle, but she was a study partner. They were a year apart, as I said, and she studied with my uncle, so she became very well educated. When she came to this country, she got a job as a Hebrew teacher first. She came without any knowledge of English at all, learned the language. My mom spoke 8 languages, which is not terribly unusual for European men of the time, but for a woman, it was very unusual.
Do you know how she became fluent in so many languages?
Because she studied with my uncle.
Wow. And do you know...
First of all, you speak the language of the country, which was Polish. She spoke Yiddish at home. She learned English when she came here. She studied French with my uncle when he studied French. She did Hebrew. Spanish she learned when we moved to Panama for a short time. So and German came sort of naturally to her. So when she got here, when she came to this country, eventually she became a Hebrew school teacher. In addition, my mom went back to school and learned to become a histologist. A histologist is a person that prepares slides for, for the pathologist. She did this in a language not her own, in English. I can remember her studying at night, well into the wee hours. She wanted to do that. She was very interested in medicine. In addition, she was president of YIVO and several Hadassah groups, but YIVO was her passion.
And which YIVO?
The one in Miami. We did have I don't know if we still do, but there was a chapter here. And my mom was a big resource person, always. Whenever we had questions, we'd never go to the rabbi. We'd always ask my mom. And she always had the answer.
Because she was learned in Jewish culture and history.
And she was also a very smart woman, but she knew all that. I mean, to this day, when I have a question, who am I going to ask? Even the rabbi probably wouldn't know the answer. So, my mother said something to me once that I never forgot. We were walking down the street one day. I was about 5 or 6. I remember it so clearly. And she called me Chanala. That's my Hebrew name. She said to me, it was sometime after the war when she found out what had happened to her parents. And she said to me, I never envied my friends their cars, bigger houses, or the furs. I only envied them if they had a mother. So that's what I grew up with.
That closeness with your own mother, and then her own longing to have the same.
Yeah. Well, she used to tell me about her. She said the story in Laura and her family was about her grandmother, who was, 75 years old, and there was a storm one night, and she woke up and there was a hand on her shoulder, and she was startled, and she looked up, and there was her own mother, who was 90-something, covering her, because there was a storm, saying, "Shlof, Shlof, mein Kind." So we grew up in a very matriarchal society. In my family, all the oldest children were girls. So, mine too. My daughter's oldest child is a girl. My mother was a very, very good role model for all of us. My daughter, my granddaughters. She was great, as I said, way ahead of her time. In spite of the fact that she was in a country that was not the one where she was born, and in a society that was definitely not one that she was raised in. She didn't let it stop her.